The Second World War's brutal Eastern Front was the proving ground for a revolutionary armored machine known to its enemies as the Armored Phantom. This tank, the KV-1, stood apart from its contemporaries through unmatched armor, powerful weaponry, and extraordinary battlefield resilience. Designed under dire circumstances in 1938-1939 at the Kirov factory in Leningrad, the KV-1 embodied cutting-edge military engineering. It broke away from outdated multi-turret designs, featuring a streamlined single turret with a high-velocity 76.2 mm cannon capable of penetrating enemy fortifications and armor previously thought impregnable. The tank's armor was its most lethal defense. Thick plates, up to 75 meters on the frontal hull and turret, rendered it impervious to all standard German anti-tank guns at the war's outset. Tank crews found themselves nearly invincible, surviving where others faltered. The KV-1's torsion bar suspension, combined with its robust diesel engine, allowed traversing the harsh terrains of snow, mud, and rubble with surprising agility. Repeatedly during critical battles, the presence of the KV-1 turned the tide. In September 1941, at the battles near Moscow, these tanks spearheaded counteroffensives, absorbing artillery fire and crushing enemy lines. German troops dubbed the KV-1 Gespenst, meaning ghost, due to its seemingly supernatural ability to appear suddenly and withstand punishment that should have destroyed it. However, the KV-1 was not without flaws. Its massive weight strained mechanical parts, leading to frequent breakdowns in the field. Ammunition shortages and logistical challenges further complicated its deployment, while the 76.2 mm gun struggled against newer German tank designs. These issues spurred development of the KV-2 variant, mounting a massive 115 mm howitzer for heavier firepower. Behind the ironclad shell were crews who forged an unbreakable bond with their machines. Their bravery and grit complemented the tank's physical resilience, undertaking near-suicidal missions to break enemy defenses and protect infantry advances. While legends grew, official Soviet records remained sparse on many aspects, fueled by wartime secrecy and political concerns. The Armored Phantom embodied both the pinnacle of Soviet tank design and a symbol of indomitable resistance, invoking awe, fear, and admiration across the battlefields it haunted. The tank's journey began long before it rolled onto battlefields. In late 1938, Soviet military leaders, understanding the urgent need for a new heavy tank to counter increasingly formidable German designs, commissioned a project that would push engineering capabilities to the limit. Chief Engineer Pavel Ivanovich Morozov led what became one of the Soviet Union's most ambitious tank development programs. His vision was clear: create a heavily armored tank that could survive direct hits from enemy fire, wield powerful artillery, and maintain mobility on the Eastern Front's harshest terrains. The Kirov factory in Leningrad, the birthplace of the KV-1, became a hub of frenetic activity. Engineers and workers labored against the clock, often with scarce materials and under the threat of air raids. Morozov's team innovated relentlessly, pioneering new welding techniques to reduce structural weaknesses in the armor and collaborating with metallurgy experts to develop steel alloys that could absorb and deflect high-velocity shells. The tank's design was streamlined, moving away from the cumbersome multi-turret layouts of previous Russian models. The single turret housed the formidable 76.2 mm cannon and was equipped with a coaxial machine gun for anti-infantry defense. The turret itself was mounted on a heavily armored hull with sloped sides to increase deflection capability. One of the major breakthroughs was the torsion bar suspension system, a relatively new technology at the time. This suspension allowed the heavy tank to traverse uneven, muddy, and snowy terrain with greater speed and less crew fatigue compared to older designs. Field tests of the prototype conducted in late 1939 revealed promising results. The tank's armor deflected most small and medium-caliber anti-tank weapons, and the engine's power, though bulky, was sufficient to move the massive vehicle efficiently over rough ground. However, challenges remained. The weight of the vehicle pushed mechanical parts to their limits, and early models suffered from engine overheating and track failures. Despite these issues, The Soviet High Command approved full-scale production by 1940, recognizing the tank's potential to alter the balance of power on the front lines. As the German invasion launched in June 1941, the KV-1 was thrown into combat, often in small numbers, but with devastating results. German forces soon learned to fear the tank that could withstand direct hits from their 37-meter and even 50-meter anti-tank guns, a rarity on the battlefield. These tanks spearheaded Soviet counterattacks, breaking through enemy lines and providing crucial support to infantry units. Multiple accounts describe how KV-1 survived salvo after salvo of artillery and tank fire, earning them the nickname Ghost Tank from German soldiers who found it almost impossible to destroy them. The crews operating the KV-1 were a breed apart. They underwent intense training to master the tank's quirks and limitations. Stories from the front tell of crews repairing track damage under fire, coordinating precise maneuvering to exploit the tank's armor, and enduring extreme cold and hunger inside the cramped, steel-encased fighting compartment. Impressive as the KV-1 was, it was not invincible. Its 76.2mm gun struggled against the newer German Panzer IVs equipped with long-barreled cannons in the feared Tiger I tank. Mechanical failures due to the excessive weight were common, and logistical strains slowed the delivery of ammunition and spare parts. In response, Soviet engineers developed variants such as the KV-2, which mounted a massive 152mm howitzer, capable of demolishing fortified enemy positions. However, this variant was slower and less maneuverable, demonstrating the constant trade-off between firepower and mobility. Beyond the battlefield, the KV-1's legend was cemented by wartime secrecy. Many records remained classified or lost, and political concerns about revealing Soviet technological capabilities limited the spread of detailed information. Yet, the armored phantom became a powerful symbol in Soviet propaganda, epitomizing resilience and strength amid adversity. The legacy of the KV-1 extends beyond its operational history. It influenced the design of subsequent Soviet heavy tanks and remains a subject of intense study for military historians and enthusiasts. Restored KV-1s stand today in museums around the world, silent witnesses to a machine that once roared across the battlefields of history, defying destruction at every turn. The battlefield was a theater of relentless clashes where the armored phantom, the KV-1 tank, proved its mettle with astounding resilience and firepower. As Soviet forces faced the brutal onslaught of the German Wehrmacht during the critical months of 1941, the KV-1 became both a spearhead and shield, turning tides in battles that once seemed lost. The tank's robust armor allowed it to withstand direct hits from most German anti-tank guns, instilling fear and respect in enemy ranks. It was not uncommon for German infantrymen to recount stories of these seemingly indestructible beasts emerging from forests and ravines, rolling relentlessly forward while shrugging off artillery explosions that would immobilize lesser machines. This reputation earned the KV-1 the chilling nickname Gespenst, or Ghost, as it appeared unpredictably and vanished without trace after wreaking havoc on enemy lines. One of the most celebrated deployments of the KV-1 took place during the Battle of Moscow in the autumn of 1941. As German forces advanced menacingly toward the Soviet capital, KV-1 units were rushed to frontline positions, their presence a critical factor in stopping the Nazi offensive. Despite often being outnumbered and facing supply shortages, the KV-1 crews harnessed their tanks' technological superiority to hold key defensive positions and counterattack with devastating effect. The deployment of the KV-1 tank was not merely about machinery, but also about the valor and spirit of its crew. These men, often enduring extreme conditions, harsh winters, and constant enemy fire, demonstrated unwavering commitment. Camped inside the steel confines of their armored phantoms, they coordinated attacks, repaired damage under fire, and executed maneuvers that leveraged the KV-1's balance of firepower and protection. The tank's powerful 76.2mm cannon could obliterate enemy armor and fortified positions, while its machine guns provided defense against infantry assaults. Commanders devised tactics that leveraged this firepower, such as advancing in coordinated waves, using the KV-1s to absorb and scatter enemy fire while supporting infantry and artillery units. However, the harsh realities of the battlefield tested the armored Phantom's limits. Its immense weight caused mechanical failures and reduced fuel efficiency, and logistical challenges sometimes left crews stranded or short of ammunition. Despite this, the tank's engineers continually improved its design to address these vulnerabilities, enhancing engine reliability, braking systems, and track durability. During nighttime operations, the KV-1 gained an almost mythical reputation. In murky darkness, Soviet crews used the tank's robust build and powerful headlights to conduct surprise raids, disrupting enemy supply lines and communication networks. These actions compounded the psychological impact on German troops, who often felt hunted by a seemingly invisible force. The armored Phantom's impact extended beyond the Eastern Front. Its design influenced later Soviet tank projects and encouraged rival nations to reconsider armor and firepower balance. German engineers, confronted with the KV-1's dominance, accelerated their own tank development programs in an attempt to match its capabilities. Tactical reports from both Soviet and German sources detailed engagements where the KV-1 could single-handedly change the outcome of skirmishes, shaping entire battle strategies. Commanders lauded its ability to absorb damage and maintain offensive momentum, qualities that were crucial in the fast-moving and often chaotic warfare of the period. As battles intensified, crews adapted to the evolving conditions. Training emphasized not only mechanical proficiency, but also psychological resilience. The close quarters inside the tank demanded teamwork and quick decision-making, qualities that further amplified the armored Phantom's effectiveness. Despite enduring harsh winters, muddy terrains, and the constant threat of enemy fire, the KV-1 remained a centerpiece of Soviet armored forces throughout much of the war. Its contributions during pivotal moments solidified its place in military history as both a technological marvel and a symbol of Soviet resistance. The continued presence of the armored Phantom on the battlefield sent a clear message to allies and adversaries alike. The Soviet Union possessed a tank capable of challenging and often overpowering even the most advanced enemy machinery. This legacy of dominance under fire is a testament to the symbiosis of cutting-edge engineering and the indomitable spirit of the crews who piloted these formidable machines. The aura surrounding the armored Phantom extended beyond its physical presence on the battlefield. As much as it inspired awe and fear in the enemy ranks, mystique and unanswered questions enveloped this formidable tank, giving rise to tales of inexplicable disappearances and arcane secrets hidden deep within its steel hull. The Eastern Front was a brutal theater not only of combat, but of chaos, fog, and confusion, where entire units vanished or were lost without clear explanation. The KV-1, with its heavy armor and formidable firepower, occasionally found itself at the center of such enigmatic events. Reports filtered through Soviet command of tanks that had seemingly vanished from front lines overnight, their tracks and crews nowhere to be found. These tales, whispered among commanders and soldiers alike, heightened the tank's legendary mystique. Behind the veils of wartime secrecy, many of these incidents were attributed to the harsh realities of war. Ambushes, mechanical failures leading to immobilization, or rapid retreats under enemy pressure. But the scarcity of official records and the classified nature of many operations left room for speculation. Some believed that Soviet high command deliberately obscured certain battles' details, fearing that the knowledge of losses might weaken morale or provide intelligence advantages to enemies. One such incident involved an entire battalion of KV-1 tanks tasked with holding a strategic rail junction during the harsh winter of 1942. As German armored divisions pressed forward with unprecedented force, the battalion fought fiercely, repelling numerous assaults and buying precious time for the defenders. Yet, after a chaotic night marked by heavy artillery barrages and severe weather, all contact with the unit was lost. Reconnaissance revealed no survivors, and the tanks themselves disappeared without trace, as though swallowed by the winter wilderness. Soviet investigators who later examined the site found only scattered debris and murky suggestions of a fierce battle, but no conclusive evidence explaining the battalion's fate. The Ghost Battalion phenomenon added a chilling facet to the Armored Phantom legend. Soldiers recounted eerie sightings of tanks moving silently through fog and snow, appearing where they were least expected, only to vanish by dawn without leaving tracks. Such ghost stories were often dismissed as morale-boosting folklore, but in war zones where psychological warfare played a critical role, perception could wield as much power as artillery. Technological factors also contributed to some of the mysteries. The KV-1's sophisticated yet temperamental diesel engine sometimes succumbed to sudden failures in extreme temperatures, immobilizing tanks at critical moments. Wartime conditions hampered recovery efforts, leaving some tanks stranded and forcibly abandoned in remote locations. These immobilized behemoths later became subjects of Soviet and German propaganda, symbolizing the brutal uncertainty of war. The secrecy surrounding the KV-1's operations was intensified by a classified program aimed at deploying specialized variants and conducting covert missions. Modified tanks equipped for reconnaissance or demolition undertook high-risk assignments behind enemy lines, rarely returning or leaving incomplete records. Discussions about these secretive units remain limited, shrouded in silence, preserved by former intelligence officers in the passage of time. Even the physical fate of many KV-1 tanks remains clouded in ambiguity. Post-war excavations and recovery operations uncovered rusting hulks and fragmented relics in forgotten battlefields, testaments to fierce struggles, but leaving many questions unanswered. The armaments, maintenance logs, and operational orders found with these remains pieced together fragments of thousand-fold stories, only deepening the tank's enigmatic legacy. Furthermore, political motives contributed to the mystification. During Stalin's regime, military transparency was carefully curated. Highlighting failures or unexplained losses could invite suspicion or censure. This climate fostered a culture where truth blended with myth, and where the legendary armored phantom could be simultaneously a symbol of indomitable Soviet defense and an inscrutable enigma. Among the surviving veterans, some recounted instances where KV-1 crews operated under orders that withheld full details of their objectives, increasing operational isolation and confusion. Communication breakdowns in the fog of war sometimes left these crews fighting in isolation, disappearing into hostile territory without coordination or rescue. These tales reflected the brutal unpredictability of tank warfare on the Eastern Front and underscored the immense courage required to pilot such beasts. Despite its mysteries, the Armored Phantom's valor and technological prowess influenced Soviet military doctrine. Lessons learned from its deployment informed tactics for armored warfare, combining armored might with coordinated infantry and artillery support. It spurred improvements, addressing the vulnerabilities revealed during its hazy and often perilous service. In literature and film, this mixture of valor and mystery fueled ongoing fascination. The KV-1 became the centerpiece of many cultural narratives, blending fact and legend, intertwining historical reality with mythic storytelling. Its disappearances lent an almost supernatural aura that amplified its status beyond mere machinery, transforming it into a symbol of resilience, sacrifice, and the inscrutable nature of war itself. As historians strive to unearth the full truth behind these shadowed chapters, archival research and battlefield archaeology continue to shed light on the silent stories etched into rusted steel and fragmented memories. While some secrets may remain forever buried beneath scorched earth, the legend of the Armored Phantom endures, a ghost looming large in the history of armored warfare. The KV-1, known across battlefields as the Armored Phantom, did not merely symbolize Soviet resistance during the harrowing years of the Second World War. It cast a shadow that stretched far beyond the immediate conflict, weaving itself into the cultural and military fabric of generations that followed. Its legacy, however, is a complex tapestry, a mixture of hard facts, mythic feats, politicized narratives, and evolving perceptions shaped by time, memory, and historical discovery. From the outset, the KV-1 represented a leap forward in armored warfare technology. Its innovation in design, thick-sloped armor, a powerful 76.2mm cannon, and the integration of torsion bar suspension set new standards that would influence Soviet tank development for decades. Yet, it was not merely the mechanics and firepower that ensured its lasting significance. It was the stories, the legends, and the cultural weight that arrived in the wake of its battlefield presence. During the war, Soviet propaganda seized upon the KV-1's fearsome reputation to boost morale and symbolize unyielding strength. Posters, films, and radio broadcasts painted the tank as an unstoppable juggernaut, leading heroic advances and withstanding enemy onslaughts with indomitable resolve. Tales of the armored phantom surviving artillery barrages that destroyed lesser vehicles imbued it with an almost supernatural aura in the public imagination. These narratives, while grounded in real fighting ability, were often amplified to inspire hope both on the front and the home front. The tank's involvement in decisive battles such as the defense of Moscow and the siege of Leningrad was chronicled in detail, with VK-1 units portrayed as turning points in these brutal engagements. The psychological impact of the KV-1 on German troops added a dimension to its legacy that transcended statistics and tactical discussions. Soldiers spoke in hushed tones of the ghost tank that emerged from the smoke and ruin to disrupt operations, seemingly invulnerable and relentless. This reputation earned it the German nickname Gespenst, meaning ghost or phantom, evoking both fear and superstition. However, over time, this almost mythic status led to the emergence of stories and legends that blurred the lines between fact and fiction. Some myths spoke of KV-1 tanks that operated autonomously, traversing battlefields without direct crew control, while others recounted ghostly appearances haunting retreating enemy columns. These tales, though often dismissed by historians as folklore, reflected the psychological warfare atmosphere pervasive on the Eastern Front, where imagination mingled with grim reality. The tangible legacy of the KV-1 extended into post-war tank development within the Soviet military. Lessons learned from its deployment, both successes and limitations, shaped subsequent designs like the Iosif Stalin series. Elements such as increased armor thickness, enhanced firepower, and improved mobility were direct answers to challenges faced by KV-1 crews. This evolutionary chain underscored the tank's role not just as a weapon of war, but as a formative influence on armored technology. Museologically, surviving specimens of the KV-1 have become treasured artifacts of military history. War museums around the world exhibit restored and preserved KV-1 tanks, serving as physical witnesses to a bygone era of industrial ingenuity and human struggle. Researchers analyze these relics not only for technical knowledge, but to uncover stories embedded in their battle damage, modifications, and wear, each scar a silent testament to fierce combat. Despite its celebrated legacy, political and historical factors complicated the KV-1's remembrance. Wartime secrecy and post-war narratives often sanitized or omitted less flattering aspects, such as mechanical unreliability and logistical nightmares faced by crews. The Stalinist regime's tight grip on information flow meant that official histories emphasized heroism while downplaying operational failures or controversies. This selective memory shaped public understanding, but left gaps for historians to fill decades later. As Soviet archives gradually opened and veterans shared testimonies, a more nuanced image emerged, one recognizing both the tank's formidable capabilities and the harsh conditions under which it was deployed. This scholarly reassessment sought to humanize the KV-1, focusing equally on the ingenuity behind its design and the lived realities of its operators. In popular culture, the KV-1 has inspired a multitude of representations, films, novels, video games, each interpreting the tank through different lenses. In some, it is a symbol of rugged heroism. In others, a mere piece of formidable machinery, yet across portrayals its mythic status endures. This ongoing cultural relevance demonstrates the enduring power of armored warfare iconography in collective memory. The myths surrounding the KV-1 serve broader functions beyond historical accuracy. They reflect the need to process the trauma of war, to celebrate resilience, and to construct heroic narratives that provide meaning amid chaos. The armored phantom, in its ghostly guise, embodies this process, becoming a touchstone for understanding not only the war's technological dimensions, but its human and symbolic ones. Today, the KV-1's legacy functions as both a lesson and a warning. It teaches the vital importance of technological innovation balanced with practical battlefield realities, of the courage and sacrifices underpinning machinery's effectiveness. Simultaneously, it warns against the dangers of myth-making that obscures complexity, reminding us to critically engage with history's deeper truths. The shadow of the armored phantom continues to fall across modern tanks and military thought, a reminder of the fierce interplay between human resolve, engineering brilliance, and the brutal demands of warfare. Its echoes resound not only in steel hulks preserved in museums, but in the strategic doctrines and armored vehicles guarding peace today, standing as a testament to a formidable legacy born of war's darkest hours. The war raged on relentlessly, grinding millions of lives through its merciless gears, but few moments of armored combat resonate with the intensity and drama like the final stands of the Armored Phantom, the KV-1 tank's most brutal and unforgettable battles. This chapter unearths the darkest hours and the fiercest confrontations where technology, human endurance, and sheer willpower collided in a crucible of steel and fire. One of the earliest and most dramatic episodes took place during the Battle of WWII in June 1941, mere days after the German invasion of the Soviet Union began. A solitary KV-1 tank, commanded by the indomitable Lieutenant Vladimir Kravchenko, became a living fortress, blocking the advance of over 5,000 German troops. Positioned at an exposed crossroads with swamps hemmed in on all sides, Kravchenko's tank wreaked havoc, disabling trucks, artillery, and enemy armor through the day and into the night. German forces, bewildered by the tank's invulnerability, employed everything in their arsenal: explosive charges, 50-meter anti-tank guns, even the fearsome 80-millimeter anti-aircraft cannons turned against this metallic giant. But most shells bounced harmlessly off the tank's thick, sloped armor as KV-1's machine guns repelled waves of infantry attempting to close in. The German infantry only succeeded after throwing grenades into openings. The tank crew paid the ultimate price, but their stand delayed the enemy's timetable by over 20 hours, a critical disruption in the opening phase of Operation Barbarossa. Lieutenant Kravchenko's heroism became emblematic of this terrifying era. His tank alone faced more than 20 German tanks and managed to destroy countless vehicles while under constant attack. When finally overcome, the German soldiers, reportedly shocked by the fierce resistance, honored the fallen crew with a military burial. The KV-1 that had become a ghostly sentinel on the battlefield had etched its fatal legacy in steel and sacrifice. Other harrowing episodes abound, none more legendary than the command of WWII Kolobanov during late 1941 near Leningrad. Using a cunning ambush strategy in Tank Alley, Kolobanov's small KV-1 detachment faced a vastly superior German force. With meticulous planning, they concealed their position, armed each tank with double the usual ammunition load, and waited silently. When German tanks advanced, the Soviets unleashed a devastating barrage, sinking 43 enemy tanks and 2 artillery pieces before exhausting their ammo. Their armor endured 156 confirmed hits, none of which penetrated. This massacre was not merely a battle, but a testament to tactical genius, combined with the unmatched durability of the KV-1. Yet, the KV-1's story in these final acts is not only one of triumph. The tank's massive size and weight made it vulnerable to mechanical failures and difficult terrain. Many tanks were abandoned due to malfunctions or trapped in muddy swamps while under fire. The emotional toll on crews was enormous, surrounded by death, wounded comrades, and the constant threat of annihilation. As the war dragged into its cruel middle years, the KV-1 was gradually overshadowed by newer models like the T-34 and IS series, but its role remained crucial in key defensive and counteroffensive operations. The monstrous silhouette of the KV-1 became a signal for both Soviet hope and German dread. Stations, villages, and ruined industrial complexes bore witness to tank battles soaked in blood and sacrifice. In the twilight of the war, some KV-1s participated in the brutal siege of Leningrad and the Battle of Kursk, pushing back desperation with every armored assault. Though battle-worn and outgunned by some of its newer adversaries, the battle-hardened machines and their crews clung to survival against desperate odds. The end of the Armored Phantom's frontline career was marked by both destruction and reverence. Countless KV-1 tanks were destroyed or disabled, their hulks strewn across frozen fields and battered landscapes. Crews endured terrifying conditions, starvation, freezing cold, and relentless bombardments, yet many chose to fight to the last shell, embodying a raw courage born of necessity and belief. The legacy of these last stands shaped post-war reflection on sacrifice and resilience. War correspondents and historians pored over accounts and reports, weaving a narrative that balanced rugged heroism with stark reality. Survivors' tales revealed moments of horror and humanity, desperate escapes from burning tanks, acts of comradeship amidst chaos, and the quiet moments of fear behind armored steel. The Armored Phantom's final acts serve as a testament to the cruel paradox of war, both a machine of destruction and a vessel of human suffering and valor. It portrays not just moments of mechanical might, but the raw edge of survival, the grit of crew members whose lives were intertwined with metal beasts rolling steadily through carnage. Today, this epic is commemorated in stone and story, an enduring reminder of the horrors and heroism embedded in the countless conflicts fought by the KV-1. Museums preserve fragments of fallen tanks, memorials honor their crews. Video footage and rediscovered letters bring voices from the past to life, ensuring the Armored Phantom's fearful glory and tragic destiny remain seared in collective memory. This is the final chapter in the saga of the Armored Phantom, a closing portrait colored by the firebreaks of battle, the shadows of loss, and the unyielding will to endure. Its massive hull may have finally been silenced, but its reverberations echo now and forever in the history of warfare as both a legend and a solemn testament to those who dared to ride its armored shell into hell and back.